There's only one way to understand how a controversial verdict is reached: to step inside the jury room. Courtroom evidence.
I opened the door and saw Mr. Singer hanging by a rope.
Presented to unscripted performers for real.
Is that just our bias?
Authentic.
There's no reason that you have to attack me personally.
Deliberations.
I'm feeling the weight of this woman's fate.
Look for Deliberations on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts.
Hello and welcome. I am John Cryer, and this is the Undisclosed Addendum. In this most recent season of Undisclosed, we looked at the mystery wrapped in a puzzle, wrapped in an enigma that is the case of the state versus Gary Mitchum Reeves. And with us today, we have Susan Simpson, host of Undisclosed. Say hello, Susan.
Hey, John.
As well as the man himself, Gary Mitchum Reeves. Thank you for being here so much, Gary.
Thank you.
And I will refer to you as Mitchum henceforward.
Okay.
It just takes a little getting used to it. Now, you have to understand, this is a bit odd and very special for me because most of the time the people that we do Undisclosed episodes about are still in prison. So I don't get to talk with them.
John, I cannot wait until you do the addendum episodes with Adden and Joey.
Yes, that will be a great day indeed. But Mitchum, now I have to say to you, it has to have been one of the most bizarre experiences ever to basically be pulled out of bed one morning and accused of murdering your girlfriend. Did it feel like that? Did you feel like you just went to sleep one night and woke up and everybody was suddenly coming at you with that?
It was like a nightmare from hell. Just a nightmare. Of course, we found out later I was drugged, and I didn't really know it at the moment kind of understand what was happening. Just the next morning when I wake up in jail, I'm being read a murder warrant. So you have no recollection of actually being pulled out of bed and taken to jail? I kind of remember bits and pieces of it. I don't remember riding to the jail. I don't remember. They said they read the Miranda rights to me, and I signed them. I don't remember any of that.
Which I find telling. I don't know if I got into that in the show, but if you signed a Miranda warning, you gave a statement. They wouldn't have had you sign it away and then not ask you questions, which means you gave answers, which if they'd hurt you, they would have used them at trial, and they didn't.
Right. I don't remember answering questions. I don't remember signing questions. I kind of remember being taken to the car out of my folks' house, and that was hazy, and that was it. Don't remember the ride. I don't remember getting to the jail, being put in the jail. I remember being woke up the next morning at the jail reading a murder warrant. Nothing else.
Considering that part of a pattern of Bo Salmon's crimes was drugging people, do you have any recollection of the moment when you could have been drugged? I mean, is there something you drank or ate the night before?
That evening, the girls, the one he was with, was making the drinks for me down at the bar. She had made me several drinks at the bar that night.
I've wondered about that too, but there were just so many opportunities. It's hard to know. I do think Mitchum was drugged. I think they probably massively overdosed him. Whoever was actually putting the drugs in there wasn't really caring about, proper dosage, which is why he felt so sick the next day.
Man, yeah, that was terrible. I had a lot of hangovers in my life, but I ain't never had nothing like that. It was bad. But yeah, they had opportunities to drug me before we ever closed the bar, and they were making the drinks. I remember both of them may have been, but I think it was Charlotte mostly that was making them until she left.
Now, I actually wanted to ask you a little bit about since Grace already had two daughters when you started a relationship with her, and you mentioned that you were very close with Beverly. Did you ever feel that closeness with Charlotte?
Charlotte was different from the get-go. I tried to be right with both of them the best I could, try to get them to go to school and all of that stuff. But Beverly was just more outgoing. She had a better personality. And Charlotte was quiet and sneaky. And then Beverly would end up having to take the rap for her. She would get in trouble over things that Charlotte did with her mother.
And was Charlotte the older sister?
She was the oldest, yes. A few years.
At the time of the murders, Charlotte had just turned 17, Beverly had just turned 15. And there was actually a third daughter. She was not living with them and much younger. She doesn't really remember anything much from that time period that I know of. That's Debbie.
She remembered wanting to go home with her mother on Sunday, but her mother told her that there was a lot going on. She remembered that. I think she was 8, wasn't she, Susan?
About there, yeah.
And it seemed very unusual that Grace would give up custody of your son. Was that a very contentious issue between the two of you?
Well, she knew I would take care of the child. And Grace could never seem to escape that world that we lived in. We were both a part of it, you know. But after we moved out of Rome and I got to Atlanta and I met a different type of people, had a different job. I had a job running a package store, and I didn't have to check people's guns when they came in to buy a 6-pack of beer. It was a different world. I got robbed while I was there one time. So I lived down there 4 years, and I didn't have nobody shoot at me for 4 years. In Rome, it was a typical about every weekend thing here. But I enjoyed that new lifestyle. But Grace just couldn't seem to. She kept wanting to go back to that, and so I ended up getting Sean the way I got him. She had left and had left him with some people. I went and picked him up, got him, and the way it was, they said, well, who's got him, because you're not married, the other one can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Something that surprised me is that you had to adopt your own son.
I had to adopt him, yes. I did. And she met me in Atlanta and signed the papers, and I didn't see her again for a while. It was... you got those records. I don't remember the exact date it was.
73, I think, early-ish.
73. We lived in Atlanta. I run a package store, worked second shift. I had different people keeping him, and we had a good life. The hard part was finding people to take care of him because the shift that I worked, the night shift, and that was wearing me out. So I came to Rome to see my folks and maybe let him stay there for a while. Walked in the old Cattle Barn Tavern. There she was, and here I went. We hooked back up.
So it must have been terrifying for you when you were arrested and you weren't able to take care of Sean.
Oh, that was my biggest worry in prison the whole time I was there was him and I had 3 other children, my first wife, but I immediately arranged for my parents to get custody of Sean even before I went to court. Judge Frazier took care of that. That was the big worry for me. But once my parents got temporary custody of him, then he was safe. So then it took a village to raise him. My 4 brothers, my sister, my family, everybody helped with him. He really had a pretty good life with them, better so than my other children did. And that was a big relief. That took a big relief off of me. I could do the time better knowing that the children were being looked after.
So to get back to right after you were arrested, you said that you didn't start actually getting memories of the night that Grace was killed until you were in Reedsville prison. So how long was that before you were there?
I didn't start getting a memory back. I didn't start getting it back in Reedsville. I was transferred to Reedsville in 75. I believe it was April of 75. Well, it was the next day after the Beverly went to the sheriff and confessed that she had lied on the witness stand. Then the next day, they shipped me to Jackson Diagnostic Center. That was in 1975. So I get to Jackson, and the guy asked me what I do. What did I do on the outside? They try to fit you in the system somewhere. And I said, well, I ran a package store as a bartender. And he said, well, we don't have any openings for liquor store operators and tavern operators, so we'll send you to Reedsville. So I ended up in Reedsville, which was the hellhole of the state of any prison. It was rough.
Yeah, Mitchum's not exaggerating. Reedsville was probably one of the worst prisons in the United States, and definitely the worst in Georgia. They had a judge that was basically assigned to make sure that Reedsville stopped killing people.
I saw a man die the day I got there.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Now, how long were you in Reedsville?
I was there a year.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to be there 5 years before I was eligible for a transfer, but that's another story.
Jimmy.
I don't know
Yes.
if you got it.
Yes, we got into that.
Support for Undisclosed comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/undisclosed. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Now, can I ask, did you have any contact with Beverly before she came in and confessed?
No.
So you had not heard from her at all, and it just suddenly, out of the blue, you get word that she has confessed to the crime.
She was still in touch with Mitchum's sister. So they had talked. She'd actually, even before she confessed down at the jail that day, she'd already confessed once to Gary's sister.
And she went to my parents' house that day, and then they brought her. She then told my parents what she had told B. So then they carried her to the Floyd County Jail, where Sheriff Garner took her statement.
But that must have been an astonishing moment for you to hear, after all these years, when the night is just a total fog, to have somebody, that must have been an incredible moment.
Oh, man, was it ever. And I kept thinking, okay, I still don't know what's going on here, but maybe this will help me at least get a bond. I always said if I could get a bond and get out and maybe get to the right medical people or something that could help me with this thing, maybe I could start remembering something. Well, that was a high moment that day she came, but then the next morning, here they are after me. So it was a roller coaster.
How'd you find out, though, later on, when she actually, not when she recanted, but when she confessed to it, the murder itself? Who told you about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, my sister called the prison at Carroll County because Jerry Schaefer had called her and told her what was going on. So at Carroll County,
Jerry Schaefer was the lieutenant down at Carroll.
Yes, he was the one that took her statement. So my sister calls the Carroll County prison, which the guy who ran the place, real nice guy, and he called me and he said, "Hey, you really need to talk to your sister. She's got some news for you." Excited again, man. I mean, it's like, okay, this is a good shot at the thing. So then they get ready and set up for the hearing, and they transfer me from Carroll County to the Floyd County Jail while the hearing is happening. That's a story in itself too. But
and don't forget, during that time, I think they ordered that Beverly have a polygraph, thinking she'd fail.
Though, yes, they had Judge Royal ordered the polygraph test, and Sheriff Garner carried her to Dalton, and they did the polygraph test, and she passed it. They agreed she's telling the truth. So I thought, man, that's some ammunition, and surely we'll get. At the time, all I was trying to do was just get a new trial, and hopefully dig up some evidence that could get this thing renewed and get a new trial and get cleared of it. Well, that was denied. He wouldn't accept that, although he ordered it. He wouldn't accept it as evidence in the hearing. He kept going back to there was still enough. Although she's confessed to perjury, confessed to murder, there's still enough evidence to convict him on the other daughter's testimony. I had a prejudiced judge.
But that also must have been very difficult for you to reconcile with the girl that you knew. I mean, you knew Beverly, and to think that she would be capable of this must have been a big shock for you.
It was a shock, but Beverly is the only